It's time for a best of Out and About with Jamie Grout podcast. Everybody's so busy this time of year that I'm going to do some reruns. And next week, I hope to have some new podcasts. We'll see what happens. But I made several calls this week to try to line up some podcasts, and everybody's busy. Go figure. It's that time of year, I suppose. So we're going to go way back to July in my very first podcast conversation with Newton Mayor Evelyn George. You'll hear some different things. The podcast now called Out and About with Jamie Grout, thanks to Van Harden, but when I started out, it was just Out and About with Grout, and you'll hear some background noise too, and that's because we recorded it at the Hy-Vee Market Grill, and I've since learned to try to do podcasts at more quiet locations, so that's the difference that you'll hear quite a bit in this podcast, but everything the mayor has to say is still very pertinent. All right, let's talk about our sponsors. First of all, Clement Mackey Insurance. They are great folks, and of course they're sponsoring Holiday Lights, which is still going on at Maytag Park. And on their Facebook page, they want to help prevent identity theft. And they say when you go outside, when you take off, when you leave the house, that there are several things that you need to take with you, including your Social Security card, multiple credit cards, gift cards and certificates, spare keys, USB drive, and a password sheet. You can find all these on their Facebook page. Also sponsored by the fine folks at Ryan's Tire and Auto in Newton. I had my car, the van that I drive around, winterized this afternoon. They did a great job, and they'll do a great job for you too. And they're honored to be nominated for the 2025 Small Business Local Business Champion Award by the Greater Newton Area Chamber of Commerce. Also by Newton Clinic, if you need care, Newton Clinic's walk-in clinic is here for you. Whether it's a minor illness or an urgent concern, they're ready to help. Walk in. It's available Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 8:45 a.m. and 4:45 p.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays from 9 a.m. to noon at Newton Clinic. And also by Advantage Credit Union.
Are you feeling financially drained? Tired of high interest rates and endless debt? Fear not, your financial superhero has arrived. Advantage Credit Union is here to rescue you from financial distress. With our powerful loan refinancing options, you could lower your monthly payments, shorten your loan term, and free up cash for a brighter future. Unleash your financial superpower today. Call us at 641-792-5660 or apply online at acuiowa.org.
Subject to credit approval, terms and conditions may apply. See credit union for details. Federally insured by NCUA.
It's time for Out and About with Grout. I'm Jamie Grout, and this is a podcast that helps to fill a void in the Newton area with, some local interviews for both Newton and Grinnell. And today I'm excited to talk to Newton Mayor Evelyn George, and we'll get to talking with her in just a couple of moments. This is not really so much an interview as what it's going to be a conversation. So I've told Evelyn I'm not going to be the only one to ask questions. I want her to ask some questions of me, so she'll be doing that later on. First victim. This is actually a person that I admire quite a bit. And Evelyn, I've told you this story before, but I got to know you when Chaz Allen put us both on the Maytag Bowl Restoration Committee. I'm working at Hy-Vee part-time these days, and Chaz was in yesterday. And, usually we just say hi, and he walks past and whatever. Well, yesterday I just said, I want to thank you, Chaz, for putting me on the Maytag Bowl Restoration Committee with Evelyn. And I said, that Maytag Bowl Restoration Committee was interesting. And I said, there were two factions, people that wanted to do it the old school way, just keep it historical, but people who wanted to modernize it. And she brought people together, and we found some common ground. And he said it wasn't easy. And I can remember going to some city council meetings, and some of the people on one of those sides, almost militant. He had to have them sit down and be quiet for a while. So, Evelyn, kudos to you on that. Was that your start for public service? Is that what made you want to be in the city council?
That was absolutely the point at which a friend of mine, it started out with just a request that I help put together a marketing brochure for renovating the Maytag Bowl. And I'm like, that bowl is such a treasure in our community. I'll definitely do that. Well, from there, it led to that committee that you mentioned, and it has been, the highlight is definitely the people I got to meet and work with on that committee, because we certainly had strong feelings when we started. But working through a process where we all learned together, we did find a lot of common ground, and it was great. And I've had, friends from that time, which, that was almost 20 years ago.
I know.
Jamie.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the start of it. That was the first time I'd really been to even a city council meeting. And from there, it was, I just wanted to support the positive direction that Newton was taking after Whirlpool and Maytag had moved out.
Yeah, it was kind of a crazy time, too. And this is another thing I discussed with Chaz. He said, back then there were a lot of fires to put out because it was just, the city had kind of, I don't know, it was going through some trouble because of Maytag. But I don't know about you, I feel like Newton kind of is in a renaissance situation right now, and it's coming back.
Absolutely. We have people that just love our community, and they put forth a lot of volunteer time, like you and I. And so that's what's great. I think we've really nailed it when on our last comprehensive plan update, we have authentic small town charm with big city amenities, with surprising city amenities. And if people can come and get to know the people and the character of our community, and then they're surprised by how convenient. I mean, everyday living, we have everything you need. For example, my husband grew up in Waterloo, and I grew up in a small town of 2,000. I was really pretty worried when we first moved to Newton that it would be too small for him, who spent a lot of time, on university going between Cedar Falls and Waterloo. But it has all the things each of us want, and for raising a family, it's just been perfect.
I spent a lot of time in Waterloo and Cedar Falls, too.
Yes.
I was up there as Jamie Phillips on the air, and it's a nice area, but I got to say, I love Newton. It's my hometown. It's great to be here, even though I've traveled all over the place. So I got to ask, I don't want to be too nosy, but you just got back from vacation. Where did you guys go?
We went to the Lake of the Ozarks, where some friends have a place, and we just relaxed and enjoyed the water and the peace and quiet most of the time.
Okay, well, that's good. So what made you decide to run for mayor anyway?
It's funny. It's kind of a calling. It's kind of, there's a need, and at that time I just wasn't sure. Well, I had just learned that Mike Hansen really wasn't going to run, and I thought, I was going on vacation. I thought, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. I think there are some things I can do to help bring our community together and really move forward with the positive.
Is it the job you thought it would be, or is it a bigger job than you thought it would be? I mean, I got to ask.
It is far bigger than I realized, which is kind of funny because I was on the council for 10 years. And yet the city is a very complex organization. I mean, really, when you think about it, it goes from streets and public works to fire and police and recreation, and we've got activity in all those areas. So, but what I'm most excited about is really marketing our community, because that's my background, is marketing, and I think we need to get the word out to people that we have small town charm, and yet those amenities that make your life interesting. I think we've got the people in the metro that are getting tired of the crowds and the congestion and the crime increase, that want to go back to what their community used to be before it got swallowed up by the metro. And also by those, who are from Iowa. In fact, one of my favorite questions when I talk to people is, how long have you lived in Newton, and what brought you here? And in a lot of times they are drawn to our community because of the size, and then they're like, and we discovered the Center for Art and Artists. We've got our own kind of people. Or I can't believe you have an arboretum, and it's beautiful. I love to go there and relax, and have my sister come and visit there.
Well, I don't mean to be Debbie Downer, here, Evelyn, but I mean, I'm curious, what do you think are some of the challenges that Newton faces?
Oh, yeah. Well, every community has challenges. We certainly need housing. We need more types of housing. We had a conversation with, for example, the superintendent, Tom Messenger, and he's like, the most important thing is when he gets new staff, is that they can find a place that they want to live and they can afford to live in Newton. I do believe that the new Legacy Plaza apartments are going to fill a need, especially for those new college grads that are used to a more modern loft-type apartment that has the shared community room and the exercise room, and that is right next to some entertainment and that cool environment. We also need, and we now have Arbor Estates, so we can get some new housing that's built. But I'm also hearing that people want some more, like the condos that are by the hospital that you remember were built after some D&D were torn down. Sure. That easy living, where someone else takes care of the snow and the grass. So, I mean, it's getting that. And actually, we did do and receive, and we put in an application for Iowa Thriving Communities, and Newton was selected this year, which is going to be great in terms of drawing interest and getting interest from developers and builders for workforce housing and low to moderate income housing, so that people can afford to live here.
So it's a funding source?
It gives them points toward, it gives them points toward financial aid through the state of Iowa. Okay. If you remember, the Legacy Plaza apartments actually are possible because of workforce housing credits and because Legacy Plaza was identified as a reinvestment district. Okay. So any of the new sales tax and hotel motel tax that's generated in the Main Street district and the Legacy Plaza go toward the development of this property.
Great. That's fantastic. And for those outside the Newton area, Legacy Plaza used to be the headquarters for Maytag and also Plant One at one time. But now they've turned it around, and it's quite an area, too. Across the street from there is a new city building where you can get your driver's license and whatnot, and they're building a splash pad, too, huh?
You bet. We're going to help connect that space between the downtown and this Legacy Plaza that will walk right by this new splash park that's under construction right now.
Speaking of which, is there any progress being made on the softball complex that's been proposed out by the Speedway?
The developers of Fast Pitch, the softball complex, are still working on funding. They have never given up. Okay. When they started the project, it was right before COVID, and it was just terrible timing. But they're definitely continuing to work forward. The City Council recently agreed to change the tax valuation on that, which was requested by them. So, we're really, really hoping for that, because that'll help utilize that infrastructure by the Iowa Speedway and bring in a hotel and some restaurants that our whole community would enjoy.
You bet. Okay, well, remember, this is supposed to be a conversation, so I'm doing all this talking and asking you questions. What do you want to know about Jamie Grout?
I want to know what brought you back to Newton, because that's one of my favorite questions as I talk with people that were Newtonians and left.
Well, I had decided to leave radio, believe it or not, because I wanted a higher paying job. And it doesn't always pay the best. It really doesn't. So I was working as Jamie Phillips on the air in Waterloo for about 10 years. I was at KOKZ, and then they changed format and went from what's called hot adult contemporary to an oldies format. And they let me go in the process. They brought in a whole new crew of people. I was well known after that. I'd been on the air for 10 years, and I was voted favorite radio personality. And a gentleman by the name of Jim Koloff, who owns a bunch of radio stations in northern Iowa, was starting a station called Mix 96. And I got on the air on Mix 96, and I was there for a number of years. But then I left there to be the marketing director, PR person for Consumer Credit Counseling of Northeast Iowa. And I learned a lot about debt. And, medical costs are the number one reason people declare bankruptcy. It's out of control. And they've really helped a lot of people who had gambling debt and all this. And I learned more about how to deal with money. I was not really very good with money before that, but I think I've become better through that. But I missed radio. I missed radio so much. It gets in your blood. And there's a picture of me on my Facebook page of me playing radio when I was 7 or 8 years old. And it's something I always wanted to do. I can remember going to Kiowa in Des Moines with my parents and begging them to let me see the DJs perform, because they had street side studios. And on the right side window, you could watch the DJ, and on the left side window was the newsman. And I said, that's what I want to do when I grow up. That dude is having fun. He's playing music, telling jokes, talking to people on the phone, reading commercials. It's a fun job, and it is a lot of times a fun job. I mean, there's stuff that's not glamorous going on behind the scenes, of course, but it's really, really good. So I went and started looking for a job. I needed my radio fix so bad that when I was working for Consumer Credit in Northeast Iowa, the program director of Star 102.5 in Des Moines needed somebody to work part-time. So I would drive 2 hours to Des Moines to work at Star 102.5 from Waterloo and back, 4-hour round trip, just so I could get my radio fixed. And with that, I made what's called an air check, like an audition tape. And I sent it to the guy who was the manager of the radio station. It had just been bought by a gentleman by the name of Dean Goodman, and he had worked in Waterloo and knew about me, offered me a job, and here I am. Was back here for 16 years, and I never thought I'd return back to my hometown, but here I am.
You just don't know where life is going to take you.
You don't.
It was when I first graduated from UNI, I was teaching in Mason City at the high school and was called into the principal's office on my second year of teaching and told my contract would not be renewed due to declining enrollment. And it was at that time that I found out about a job at Maytag. And actually I thought, you know what, I'll just try it for a year. If I don't like it, I'll do something else.
Right.
So, but take those chances.
Sure.
And I'm excited that you are doing this podcast because there's this huge hole. I was listening to KCOB back in the mid 80s when I came to Newton, because when I get to work, people would be talking about the Cardinals, whatever sport was in, and I needed to know before I got to work. Yeah. And then I continued that when I was, I was commuting to West Des Moines here from Newton for 18 years and listened to KCOB on my commute to keep up with all the news and to hear Jamie's voice.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I don't know where I'm going to land. I don't know what I'm going to do, but in the meantime, I'm going to be doing this podcast, and I'm excited about it. I've had a lot of people encouraging me to do the podcast. Jeff Mackey, who's a good friend, in fact, before I even left the airwaves here in town, he was encouraging me to do a podcast. Grout, you got to do a podcast. And so, I was talking with this one radio company, and if they end up hiring me, it won't be till later in the year. So I need to do something in the meantime. So this is what I'm going to do. You can't take the microphone away from me. That's all there is to it. And he's been coaching me, and he's been telling me what podcast to listen to. So thanks to Jeff Mackey for that. I appreciate it. Also, my sweetie, Little Red, Lynette Neubauer Baker, made the logo for the Out and About with Grout Facebook page, and she's really good at graphic design. And by the way, I'm going to put in a plug for her here. If you need promotional products, calendars, pens, pencils, whatever, backpacks, T-shirts, get a hold of Little Red. She'll do a good job for you and try to get you the best price possible. So I just have to do that because she's wonderful. She really is. And we actually dated in the 1980s when I worked at KCOB before. And then I came back and got involved in community theater, and she tried out for community theater where we had originally met in the 80s. And one thing led to another, and we got back together again. So it's been wonderful. I got to do another thing here and tell you, Wyatt the Wonder Cat, our cat, who fights crime, by the way. I don't know, if the chief has talked to you about this. Yeah, he fights crime occasionally, and he finds the burglars and he poops on them. So That's his big weapon. And so anyway, it's his 12th birthday today. So happy birthday to Wyatt the Wonder Cat. Did you have any other questions for me, Evelyn?
I was going to ask what you ended up as your title for your podcast, because I noticed online you had lots of suggestions and encouragement. So that's great.
Yeah, Out and About with Grout. And I want to say, too, that this podcast is not just going to be Newton focused. It's also, I want to include people from Grinnell too, because they kind of have the same thing going on there where they need to have some people on the air and have events. Somebody suggested to me this morning that I might want to interview the president of Grinnell College, which is a great college, and a lot of people call it the Harvard of the Midwest. So that is fantastic. But we've got a lot of stuff to brag about in terms of education here too with DMAC.
Absolutely. DMAC, and especially the partnership DMAC has with the high school, is fabulous too. The students at the Newton High School can earn college credits by being dual enroll. They can take classes at the DMAC Career Academy, and in fact they can get certificates and some training so that they can go right to work after college, or actually after high school, or work during school in nursing programs. And the DMAC Newton campus has it's the exclusive campus to offer the Baking Culinary Institute and the court reporting. So they're a fabulous partner, in addition to also having their business resources, which offer support to local business and employers for whether it's a customized training program or to help their employees get the certifications they need. Sveta Miller is now also, a couple people are working on the 10,000 Small Businesses program, Goldman Sachs.
Now, what is that, Evelyn?
I think you should have some people from DMAC, Goldman Sachs, explain more about that. It's ways of supporting people who are starting or have a small business and want to expand. And then there's also through DMAC, I'm just learning, you can also go to a venture school if you have a business idea and you want to put the plan together so that you have a good chance of it being successful and being able to talk to get funding to start your business. Because the Newton Main Street program is one of only 36 in the country and Puerto Rico that was selected for this pilot program on, it's 3 E's. It's on entrepreneurial education, equitable entrepreneurial education, or something like that. It's pretty fancy, and I've been going to the webinars and learning a lot about what's available in Newton. And actually, almost 50% of Iowans are employed by small business.
Oh, okay.
I found that surprising. It's like 46%.
Yeah.
Which is pretty exciting.
That is
exciting. So that would be a great thing for people to explore. And there are just lots of resources. Please reach out to the Newton Main Street, the Chamber, DMAC, the city. All these groups are happy to help.
Well, and I hope to talk to Aaron Yeager at Main Street, and also to Bill Peters, who's going to be the new provost at DMAC after having been principal at the high school here for a number of years too. So they're going to be in upcoming episodes. Anything else you want to ask me? My life is an open book, mostly.
Goodness. Well, you know what? And I have been reading your Facebook post for a long time. Well, how's life going now?
Thanks for asking. Now,
and you're like, okay, I don't want to know.
No, it's okay. I have had a lot of people, in fact, not long after my employment was terminated, I posted on Facebook, would you support me doing a podcast? Over 700 people said they would. The problem there is, what kind of content would people want? And so I hope to not make this boring by any means at all, and I hope to make it interesting for people, and I'm looking forward to suggestions. But as of right now, I'm kind of in limbo. I've applied at some different places and whatnot. I've talked about being a bus driver. I've talked about getting my CDL. I've talked about putting on my crash helmet and being a driver's education instructor. I had a guy I went to school with reach out to me and said, boy, there's a real need for driver's ed instructors, but there's a lot of hoops to jump through with that. And really, I am hoping to stay in radio one way or the other. So, I'm doing okay. And Little Red's been very supportive. The community's been very supportive of me. I know, Evelyn, I have a lot of people, they're cheering for me, they're praying for me, and that means a whole lot to me. So, I'm hanging in. I'm doing just fine.
You've got the right attitude. Like I said, my first job I was called in the principal's office. My second job I got called into HR and escorted out. My third job, it just was not a good fit for me. And because that was in Muscatine, so our family moved to Coralville, but we left our hearts here.
Sure.
So you know what? It's like we came back, and it's like what I learned too is that I didn't have to get all my personal satisfaction and enjoyment from my job or my career. There were ways to supplement it. And maybe that's how I got into city government, because jobs aren't all there is to life, and you've got to figure out, kind of follow your heart, and our heart said we want to live in Newton.
Well, in volunteering and doing community service, what you do is very fulfilling. It has to give you a good feeling inside when you've accomplished something neat.
It does. It does. And I know it's hard. Transitions are hard.
Yeah, it is.
Because especially when you really enjoy it as much as you have. And then I also did an exercise where I came up with a long list of things that would be worse than losing the best job in the world. And actually, I can share that list with you if you need it ever.
Okay. All right. I'm looking forward to that, Evelyn. Thank you so much for joining me today on the first official Out and About with Grout. I appreciate it. Keep up the good work as mayor, and onward and upward.
I'm honored to be your first guest.
Okay. Evelyn George, the mayor of Newton, on our first Out and About with Grout. Thanks so much for joining me. And we'll post another podcast or two next week sometime. Let me know what you think. Drop me a comment. I'd appreciate it. This podcast also sponsored by Pizza Ranch in Newton, along with Free Classified Weekly, Westside Java Coffee Bar, Lynette Baker, Halo Branded Solutions representative. Give her a call today if you need some advertising done on products like calendars, pens, pencils, you name it. You can put advertising on it through Halo and Lynette Baker. And also by Newton Des Moines East KOA.
Introducing RV Sales Made Easy at the Newton KOA and Timberline in Waukee. We're here to take the stress out of selling your RV. Listing an RV online can be time-consuming. Our experts step in to handle the details so you can relax while we do the hard work. We act as your trusted partner from start to finish. That means everything from assessing your RV's value and creating standout marketing to negotiating with buyers and finalizing the sale. Call today, Newton KOA or Timberline Campground in Waukee, to schedule your appointment to sell your RV. 563-340-6374. We make it easy for you.
Until next time, Grout is out. See ya.